Hello and welcome into Loftside Banter. Today's show, we're doing something a little bit differently, actually. We're actually live streaming this to Riverside, which is the program that I use to record this. So we're actually going to do a live stream as we're doing it, and that's kind of cool. I don't really know what to expect, considering I have just kind of my notes for today. We'll go into the NFL. We'll go into a little NBA, and we'll go into some other award winners and stuff like that for Major League Baseball. I might save that for another one. But for the time being right now, we'll talk about the NBA. We'll go into some details like that. I would love for anybody to, I guess, message. I don't know if you can do that on this or not. We'll see. But we are live streaming this recording as we go along. So, an eventful week in the NFL, as we'll go over some scores from week 11. Briefly, we'll take a look at some different things, and then there's some huge injury updates that are coming up and some team news and stuff like that. But last week, we saw a game in Spain for the first time ever between the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Commanders, and the Dolphins won in overtime 16-13. The Commanders' season is all but over. We all understand that. And I think with Jaden Daniels out and Marcus Mariota, playing right now, I don't think it necessarily means, losing your starting quarterback and putting all your eggs in kind of in that Jaden Daniels basket, which we've seen the Commanders/Redskins do before. You're going to get a high draft pick, and you hope that person pans out with the return of Jaden Daniels. But again, we've seen this story before with them. I'm very high on Jaden Daniels. I actually was kind of hoping the Patriots got him at 3. I mean, I'm happy with what has happened right now. But my concern with Jaden Daniels is he's going to get so beat up this year that he's going to be in that particular time frame where, it's kind of an RG3 retread, if you will. I think Jaden Daniels has a lot more passing ability than RG3 did, at least in the short time that we've seen it. But RG3 got knocked out for good. Whereas Jaden hasn't had that injury. I mean, a dislocated elbow sucks. It hurts, I'm sure. But at the moment, it's not a non-recoverable injury. The thing with Jaden Daniels is he has to become that pocket passer. He can't be the drift outside. Like, he can extend play. Like, extending plays is different. But he's not necessarily extending plays. He's taking the brunt of the punishment. And we've seen it over and over again. So Washington, I think the course that you're on, or the course that you're on for this season, I think you're okay long term. We're starting to see the similarities again that come back from the RG3 saga. We were all fascinated with RG3 and what he brought. We were all fascinated last year with Jaden Daniels getting him to the NFC Championship game. Here we are this season. He's been down with an injury 3 times this year. I've counted because he was on my fantasy team. He's no longer. But this team, I think, still has that future. And with a high draft pick, you need some help on that defense. The defense has been atrocious. Now, Dan Quinn took over defensive play calling, and they looked really good against Miami, but they looked good. Some other scores from last week. Pittsburgh 34-12 over the Cincinnati Bengals, where we start to see, I don't think Joe Burrow is coming back this week because they play the Patriots. But the concern with the Steelers is Aaron Rodgers went down with what looked like, I think, broken wrist. And we're starting to, we're looking at Aaron Rodgers and this team and where they're at right now. They're 6-4. Aaron Rodgers was 9 of 15 for 116 yards and a touchdown. You had Jalen Warren and you had Kenneth Gainwell kind of get banged up a little bit in this game as well. But Mason Rudolph came in and went 12 of 16. And Nobody is saying that Mason Rudolph is a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers, even now. But he looked pretty good. Granted, against a Bengals defense that has been also atrocious for 2 years now. So I think Joe Flacco has done enough to kind of keep them relevant. The Bengals are going to go through another year without the playoffs. With that offense is crime. It's a crime. And then not only that, but you had Jamar Chase spit in the face of Jalen Ramsey, which I'm sure there's a lot of people that will have wanted to do that, but you can't do it in the middle of an NFL game on camera. And to say that I just never did it, there's a lot of cameras looking at you at any given time. I'm sure there's cameras dedicated to you. So I find it interesting that this is where the Cincinnati Bengals are going to be after all of this. Jamar Chase is going to be out against the Patriots, which is a delightful thing for me. And then the Steelers are kind of in this weird spot again, where they're 6-4. They look like they're probably going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be one of those first round exits again. That's what it seems like. We're going to see if we can send this live stream out to people. Because I didn't want to hit that because now that's recording me, double recording. So we're learning as we go along. And then the most confusing game of last weekend was the Jacksonville Jaguars winning 35-6 over the Chargers. They're the team I think that has kind of taken over from the Steelers of who we don't really know who they are. They're going to come out and win 35-6 over a Chargers team that's a hard-nosed football team, and they out-physicaled them, which is interesting. Buffalo beat Tampa Bay 44-32. And we're going to go into, again, the Patriots again and where the state of the union is for the Patriots. And I realize I've done this over the last couple of weeks, but it's, as I punch my desk, where it kind of looks like one thing. And there's so many people out there like, oh, the Patriots are fool's gold. Thanks to Cam Newton for that one. Or the Patriots are just going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. Or the Patriots are this. Or they have a soft schedule. They have this. And I'll address all that. Because honestly, it's people that don't want the Patriots to be successful again. And that's fine. But before I get too far off topic, Buffalo beating Tampa Bay 44-32. Tampa Bay is kind of in a free fall moment right now. They were very good a couple of weeks ago, and then now they've lost 2 straight, and they have 2 tough games coming up. And I'm going to double check what they are. But we're talking a 6-2 team 2 weeks ago. And now you're going to play the Rams, who are probably the best team in the NFC right now, at least the most complete team that we've seen. Then from there, they have the Cardinals, which I think is a winnable game for them. The Saints winnable. So, I mean, 3 out of their last 4 they've lost. And they were all fairly games that you would expect them to lose. 24-9 from the Lions. They win 23-3 over the Saints. They lose to the Patriots and they lose to the Bills. I think all of that looks fine as far as the teams that they're losing to, because this was the tough stretch that they had. They still have a tough game they could be 6-5 at the end of this. And then you're talking about the Panthers taking over first place in the division. So, kind of up and down for that. But then they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. With the Falcons, who we'll get into them in a few minutes. Falcons, they play the Panthers again, the Saints again, and stuff like that. So I think they still have a legitimate shot at winning the division. The Panthers have obviously been playing better than what most people had, really kind of figured out. So who knows? Who knows but the Bills back on the winning side of things. I don't think they're going away. I don't think they're going away as far as the AFC East. Let's not make the mistake and think that the Patriots have 2 games up on them plus a tiebreaker. They play again. So that game is one to kind of circle because there's going to be a whole bunch of different things with that. Chicago keeps winning. They're at 7-3, 19-17 over the Minnesota Vikings. J.J. McCarthy hasn't, again, is one of these. Up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. He'll make a great comeback, and then he'll play like absolute shit. Then he'll be out for a while, and then he'll come in and, oh, here's the guy that we thought he was. Now he's down again. It's just one of those things that I don't think he has an identity yet. And for that Minnesota team, you put your eggs in that basket, that J.J. McCarthy basket, at the end of last season and let Sam Darnold go. Now, Sam Darnold hasn't been playing well, but the team has. They've been winning. And for that Minnesota fan base to win 14 games last year, and then all of a sudden we're now floundering under 500, 500. They're 4-6 right now. 2 interceptions, only threw for 150 yards against a pretty bad Bears defense as well. So where do they go from here? Is there development? Is there a chance they spend some time considering a quarterback in free agency or a draft pick? I don't see why you would throw out that opinion right now. J.J. McCarthy hasn't shown enough to be the franchise person. Now, you had Carson Wentz as his backup. All right, decent backup. Somebody that probably, if he was playing extended time, you were probably in trouble, which he ended up doing. But then he got hurt. So now you don't have a backup. I think it's probably something they discuss in the offseason. I think they're going to give him a full another season and see what happens. They're going to they obviously have weapons around him. They're going to make sure that the team is built around him and see what happens next year. And then they probably try to go and do that if, again, this is kind of the same season we're at. But that fan base is not very happy with the fact that they were at the top of the NFC or one of the top teams in the NFC to now 4-6. Houston Texans 16-13 win over the Tennessee Titans. Not a great game for anybody to really watch. Davis Mills got the start again. Threw a touchdown. Didn't make a mistake. He's got 720 yards, something like that, throughout the season. Again, he's kept them above water. They're 5-5, and you beat a team that you're supposed to beat. Now, not convincingly, but you beat them nonetheless. Panthers, as I mentioned, 30-27 win over the Atlanta Falcons, and Michael Penix is now out for the rest of the season with an ACL injury. It says suffered a partially torn left ACL. I think he had 2 in college, did he not? Michael Penix was having a decent year. It's still under 2,000 yards passing, 60% completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. You couldn't really complain about. He just wasn't great. It wasn't great, but it was good as far as a development of a young quarterback. And I believe Michael Penix has had quite a few ACL injuries. I'm going to double check. Yeah, Michael Penix has faced 2 ACL injuries in his NFL career. His most injury, partially torn ACL, will require surgery and silence for the rest of 25. The injury occurred during the game against the Panthers, blah, blah, blah. So this is his second time around. Not something you want your franchise quarterback to already be in kind of a multiple ACL situation. But ACLs are tricky. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend like I am. But there's been really good ACL injuries for players, and they've come back and been fine. I don't necessarily think number 2 speaks volumes of that, but you're going to get Kirk Cousins the rest of the year. Not exciting for Atlanta fans, but there are worse people to go to. Now you're 3-7. I think you're at that point where you just let whatever happens, happens. I'm at a point where Raheem Morris is probably gone at the end of the year. I said that last episode. So this may be the time to reset. You got to get Kirk Cousins off your payroll. That's a hefty contract to be paying for somebody to not play until there's an injury. But if you're bringing in a new head coach, just again, it may be a time to revisit the quarterback position. They obviously brought Penix in, and the story was they didn't want to be as unprepared as they were the last time there was an injury to a starting quarterback. That was the thing. Now you have your starting quarterback out for the rest of the season. You're bringing back Kirk Cousins, who has gone downhill for a long time now. It's been a few years where he's declined in play. So we'll see what happens with that. Green Bay Packers 27-20 over the New York Giants. It was exciting to see Jameis Winston because he's just a pure gunslinger. Just a pure gunslinger back at quarterback. Obviously, Jackson Dart is probably done for the season. Russell Wilson, he's been done for a while as well. The Green Bay Packers didn't win convincingly, but they won. They had to get back to winning ways, and thankfully they have. A Rams 21-19 win over the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle's very good, and to win by 2 points or to beat Seattle, and Sam Darnold play a Sam Darnold game that we're used to, making bad passes. I think he had 4 interceptions or something like that. But you got to win. Yeah, 4 interceptions, no touchdowns. You got to win by 2 points. A win's a win. You're going to be at the top of the NFC right now. And the team that we thought that was probably the closest to you in Seattle, I mean, you beat them. 41-22 win for the San Francisco 49ers over the Arizona Cardinals. Brock Purdy was back, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jacoby Brissett, 452 yards passing, but 2 interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Jacoby Brissett has played very well. And I think you've really kind of shown, and Michael Wilson played very well. Luckily, I picked him up because I knew he was going to be wide receiver 1. So it's one of those things that we're talking about Brock Purdy coming back. Mac Jones did a great job at keeping them afloat during that time. And San Francisco is starting to get some guys back. We all know what they can do at full strength. They obviously haven't been full strength for a couple of years now. But San Francisco gets the win. They keep marching on. Now, I think it comes down between... There are 3 legitimate teams out of the NFC West. If San Francisco can keep that up, obviously had to survive. But between the Rams and Seattle, I think they're the top 2 teams in the division, if not the conference. A Baltimore 23-16 win over the Browns. So, again, Baltimore keeps on winning. They keep putting some guys back in place as well. They are 5-5, back to 500. They're still not going to make the playoffs. I don't think that's really going out in a stretch in any way, shape, or form. And they're a scary team. They haven't proven to get there yet, get past the Chiefs or whatever the case may be, but they are a scary team. Denver 22-19 win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City falls to 5-5. Denver's 9-2, tied for the best record in the AFC with the Patriots. Just a gutsy come from behind, win at the last second type of win. Normally, that's what you see Kansas City doing. They're not being able to do that this year. So, again, I think Kansas City's still a playoff team. Whereas neither one of them are in the playoffs right now, the Ravens or the Kansas City Chiefs, they still can make a lot of noise if they get in. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they get in. Sunday night game. Philadelphia Eagles 16, Detroit Lions 9. Real barn burner there. But for 2 offensive heavy teams, defense was the recipe for this game. The Eagles are still Super Bowl champions. The Lions still have to prove that they can get there. That's kind of the storyline from this game. Dallas 33, Raiders 16 on Monday Night Football. Obviously, Dallas going through that tragedy with Marshawn Kneeland. Great to see everybody wearing those shirts and solidarity and stuff like that. Terrible for such a young player to go through something such as that with mental health and then ultimately take his own life. So maybe a rallying cry. I can't judge the Cowboys defense on this one because we're talking about Geno Smith and we're talking about stuff like that. So where we kind of sit right now in these standings, Patriots are 9-2 at the top of the AFC East, 6-4 Steelers at the top of the AFC North, but with the Ravens right behind them again. The Colts at 8-2 sit atop the AFC South, 2 games up on the Jacksonville Jaguars. I guess are good. Houston Texans are at 5-5. Denver 9-2. The Los Angeles Chargers had a great start to the season and blew it. They're 2 games back of the Broncos now. 8-2 Eagles at the top of the NFC East. The Cowboys are in second place. It's pretty comfortable that the Eagles are going to take that division. Chicago Bears are at 7-3 and are essentially a half game up on the Packers, who are 6-3-1. NFC South, you still have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 6-4 at the top of the division. Panthers are 6-5 right behind them. And then this is the best division in football, in my opinion, with the Rams, Seahawks, and 49ers all right there. Rams 8-2, Seahawks 7-3, and the 49ers are 7-4. Excuse me with the microphone. I'm going to lean back a little bit for this one. And the reason being is you hear throughout the media, especially in this section of the country, talking about the New England Patriots and they're soft, they're this, they're that. They're going to lose in the first round of the playoffs. They have the worst schedule ever. And as I mentioned all this, look, I'm a Patriots fan, have been my entire life. I've seen them win. I'm happy with seeing them win. The thing that people need to understand is this. Weak schedule. Sure. You want to throw out the teams that they've had to play while they're weak. Sure. You can only play with who they put in front of you. The Buffalo Bills are not a weak team. They've gone through it the last couple. I get that. They lost to the Patriots, they lost to the Falcons, and they lost to the Dolphins. Division games are tough. Division games are always going to be tough. So to sit here and say, well, this Buffalo team is weaker than we think because they lost to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins have a lot of talent on their team. Keep looking over here, like this is the camera here. It's actually right here. See? So the Jets have played teams tough. They played the Patriots tough last week. You've had the Patriots come out and beat the Browns, who had the number 1 defense at the time. Obviously, their offense is nowhere near where it's supposed to be. And obviously, Dylan Gabriel is now out for a while. Shedeur Sanders is going to get his chance to start. So anybody that has all their eggs in the Shedeur basket, we'll see what happens with that. But again, the Patriots have played the teams that have been put in front of them. AFC East is down this year. Sure. Oh, well, they lost to the Raiders and the Steelers. So both games I went to, by the way. Raiders are 2-8. The Steelers obviously 6-4, as I mentioned. This team, you were expecting them to come out week 1 with all new players and all new stuff and not make mistakes and anything else like that. They were going to go through it and have a rough time. Now, they only lost by 3 points to the Raiders. Okay. Listen, mistakes kill you. And then your 5 turnovers against the Steelers, any team should be able to beat you with that. And that is a veteran-laden team. They know how to win in those situations. They cause a lot of turnovers on that defense. It's not out of the realm of possibility that good teams lose to bad teams. They've taken care of business since then. Beating the Bills, beating the number 1 defense for the Browns. They took care of business when it came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Again, going through it right now. Understand. Do I think the New England Patriots are going to win the Super Bowl this year? No. Will I go, oh my God, they're so terrible. See, they had a bad schedule or they had a weak schedule if they lose in the first round of the playoffs? No. This team probably, and if you probably took anybody in that front office at the beginning of the year and said, you have to give me a number of how many wins you're going to have, I think you probably would have gotten, I don't know, 8 wins, 7, 8, maybe 9 wins from a lot of that front office. And that was like, hey, yeah, realistic answer. I think they were going to take a significant step forward no matter what and probably be in that 7 to 9 win range. It's kind of where I thought they were going to be, maybe a little bit worse than that. But this team is taking a significant step forward. They have a lot of their rookies playing significant minutes. And this is the one thing I keep saying about the Browns. You have guys that are now starting and playing significant minutes and getting a lot of development. Drake May has taken the step forward that we need to see. And I've seen he hasn't thrown for 300 yards. Well, Josh Allen didn't throw for 300 yards for almost 4 seasons almost. In a game. 300 yards in a game, I should say. Drake May leads the league in passing yards, if I'm not mistaken. He still makes a few mistakes in judgment in the red zone and stuff like that. That hopefully they'll teach that out. This team making the playoffs is huge this year. Huge. You just had Travion Henderson pick up the slack that he needed to over the last couple of games. Drake May has made the significant steps that he needs to. He's in the MVP conversation. Kyle Williams just had a great catch the other night, not against the Jets. 72-yard touchdown, the longest one of the season for the Patriots. Needs to be more prevalent in making receptions and everything else like that. Craig Woodson, starting since day one on this defense in the safety position. Jared Wilson, your starting left guard all season long. I think he was out for 1 game. Will Campbell, yes, growing pains against some of the best pass rushers in the game. Understandable. But started from day one. This team has significantly overachieved from what a lot of people would have said at the beginning of the season. If they go to the playoffs and lose in round 1 or whatever it is and don't win the division, whatever you want to say, they have significantly gotten better. And I know the people out there are saying these things because they don't want to see the Patriots go through another 20-year reign. Let's pull that all back in and hold on a second. I keep saying hold on a second to Patriots fans. Now I'm saying it to the rest of the NFL. You want to assume the worst with the Patriots and think they're going to go through a 20-year run? Great. Awesome. Fantastic. I would love to see it again. I would love to see it again. It's going to be very difficult to do. Are you disappointed that they have a legitimate quarterback again? You should be. And there were 2 teams that wanted to trade to get Drake May. There were people out there that kind of saw Drake May and kind of saw this. Now, health and the development of those small mistakes that he's making. Those are what are the next. And if your team didn't get him, oh well. Tough. The Patriots fans this time around are only doing it because the rest of the fans of the rest of the NFL are so terrified that this team is back. Would I be surprised if they won the Super Bowl this year? Yeah, a little bit. I would be a little bit. But you know something? I'm okay. I've seen it. I've seen it over and over and over again. I've seen 6 Super Bowl championships, And you want to throw out any excuse you want. Oh, they cheated. They did this. They did that. Oh, this year they have a weak schedule. Okay. But they're winning. They're winning. That's all you can do in these games. You either win or you lose. Oh, you can tie, I guess. But if you want to keep hating on them because of where they are and the fact that they went out and they found the quarterback, okay. For all of New England and all the Patriots fans, shouldn't bother you. Shouldn't bother you in the least. Let the team finish out the year. They lose in the first round. Oh, okay. So you had a weak schedule. They made the playoffs, which was not something we were expecting for a lot of people. The Drake May thing, you should be worried about all the draft picks they look like they've hit on. Again, Will Campbell, Jared Wilson, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams I won't put in there quite yet, but Craig Woodson has been playing the whole time. They just brought up the one rookie they had on their practice squad the entire year. Any team had the ability to go get him. Now, with this team, though, we're talking about a Milton Williams injury. That's a significant injury. I was going to say, going into the show, they've avoided the major injury. Now you have one for at least 4 weeks. High ankle sprain or whatever it is. Now you have that injury. What can happen from there? Christian Barmore is your guy that's going to take over. Now, Christian Barmore was great in his own right on bad teams. Had to go through the blood clot issues, right? Now, only playing 60% of the snaps this season. Again, hey, we're going to get you in there. 60% of the snaps, 70% of the snaps, whatever it is. I think it was like 63%. We have Milton Williams. We can bring you along, and if things start to whatever, your conditioning, whatever, we got you. Now you got to play significant time again, which I think he's capable of. So this team has to figure out if they can overcome that. Now you got Cincinnati up there. Cincinnati's been, they have a great offense. No Jamar Chase. I don't think Joe Burrow is playing, so you're going to have Joe Flacco again. Veteran. I don't think you're going to blow them out by any means. Depends on that defense that decides to show up, which it never does. Maybe you do. But everybody can you want to keep complaining about the Patriots winning and all, you want to come up with every excuse. You've been doing that for over a quarter of a century. You were delighted to see them. My thing was, I'm okay with the Patriots as long as it's desirable football to watch. They weren't for the last 2 years. Now they are. It's must-see TV on the weekends. So, if you're not a fan of the New England Patriots and you're complaining about it, you can keep your opinion to yourself. You want to come on and you want to debate me on it and you're going to come and tell me, oh, they have a weak schedule? Okay. They didn't pick it. It's not like college football when you go and you pay weaker schools to play you. This is who you're assigned to play. You can't. What's the line I heard yesterday? You can't complain. If you're a non-playoff team, if your team is a non-playoff team, you can't complain from outside the club. You can't even get in. Beat the teams that are on your schedule and then talk about it. If you can't do that, we had injuries. Oh, well, tough shit. The teams that do the best have the depth to do it, have players step up, or avoid the major injuries. Can't complain from the outside. You can't get in. That's what it is. I don't think I've ever said that phrase in my life, and I just said it twice in the past minute. So, that's where we're kind of at with that. Taking a look at Week 12, as I mentioned, with the Patriots and the Bengals, they play Sunday at 1 o'clock. Thursday night's games has Buffalo playing the Houston Texans. Indianapolis and Kansas City, big game there. A huge litmus test for the Indianapolis Colts comparative to the Kansas City Chiefs. And why have I said it this way, not the other way around? Daniel Jones can still Daniel Jones. Now, is he the most trustworthy person every week in and week out? No, but he's played well. Patrick Mahomes, up and down, but he's been the most trustworthy quarterback over the past 5 years, at least. Chicago Bears 7-3 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think even with Mason Rudolph there, I think Pittsburgh has a legitimate shot. I think Mason Rudolph is built for this system. I just think he is. I mean, he obviously left for Tennessee for a year or two or whatever it was, and now he's back. The Ravens against the Jets. Ravens are going to win that game. Seattle 7-3 against the 1-9 Tennessee Titans. Good luck to you, Tennessee. Minnesota Vikings against the Packers. I think the Packers are hopefully going to wake up, and we're going to see JJ still struggle. The Giants and the Lions. Lions need this get-right game again. Having multiple get-right games is not a good sign for a good team. The Lions are at that point. Are they legitimately going to make a run, or are we talking about a team that had a nice year and a half kind of run? Jacksonville 6-4. Don't know what to expect from them. I do know what to expect from the Cardinals, even with Jacoby Brissett playing as well as he is. That one's probably a lot closer game than what probably you think. The Browns with Shedeur Sanders play against the Las Vegas Raiders. A little bit more of a... Now, the Raiders' defense isn't bad, but the same thing with the Browns. So if Shedeur can move the ball, people will get excited for that. He didn't play well in his relief stint last week, so something to keep in mind. 3-7 Falcons with Kirk Cousins and the Saints at 2-8. I might pick the Saints on that one. Eagles 8-2 against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys defense looked better against a bad Raiders team. I think Philadelphia probably takes that one pretty handily. The Rams, I think, are capable of beating anyone, including the Buccaneers this week. And then the San Francisco 49ers against the Carolina Panthers on Monday Night Football. And Bryce Young, 400-plus yards this past week. First time he did that in his career. Again, we're talking about coin flip games here. Who's going to show up for these games? NBA. So LeBron James played his first game last night, and the Lakers scored 140 points. There's been a few injuries going around. They asked LeBron James if he's going to play in 2028 Olympics. I mean, at 43 years old, come on. You can't keep putting that many minutes on him. LeBron is not the same player he was. He's still very, very good. Don't get me wrong. I don't want LeBron haters coming after me. He's still very, very good. He's not the LeBron of his early 30s. Can't really criticize because I wasn't at my peak. I wasn't LeBron James. You couldn't even put me in the same sentence, paragraph, story. Hell, you couldn't even write my name down for anything. But he comes back. Lakers score 140. I think he had 11 points. And I keep hitting my desk. Giannis Antetokounmpo, that's right, Greek, out for 1 to 2 weeks. Stephen Castle out for 1 to 2 weeks. So some high-profile injuries in the NBA early on. Stephen Curry out against the Heat with ankle soreness. This is typically around that time where they've played, 15, 20 games, and some guys are like, let's set out a few. The NBA is strange like that. Standings-wise, so far, you have the Detroit Pistons at 13-2 at the top of the Eastern Conference. Towards the bottom, Indiana Pacers and Washington Wizards have only won a game apiece. The Oklahoma City Thunder are 14-1. I haven't heard anybody really talk about them challenging the Warriors record, and I don't think they necessarily will. I don't think a team will for a while. The Thunder are built to do it. The Thunder are absolutely built to do it. And then the bottom of the Western Conference, Sacramento Kings 3-11 and New Orleans Pelicans are 2-12. Pelicans are in rough shape, man. I went to a few of those games. They had cheap tickets compared to the Saints and everything else like that. But you're looking at Zion Williamson's out again. Jordan Poole's out. Derek Queen has looked okay. I thought he would have a little bit better numbers. coming out of Maryland. He had big kind of, surroundings with him after hitting that game-winning shot in the NCAA tournament for Maryland. Just disappointing. Jeremiah Fears has played pretty well. He's 19 years old. So, I mean, they have pieces that are just young and they just need to develop. But Zion Williamson's not doing anybody any favors. He played in a few games, but he's out again. He's still 25 years old, but he can't get on the court for the majority of a season. Herbert Jones, who had great numbers last year, under 10 points a game this year. I don't know. I feel bad for the New Orleans fan base because I lived it for a while. And, the time that they brought in, they had Anthony Davis, they had Boogie Cousins and everything else like that. It looked like they were going to have a legitimate shot at making a run, and they just never got around to it. What can you do? Major League Baseball. A few different moves from the Red Sox, nothing of note. Depth at catcher, which they desperately need, and stuff like that. I'm trying to see if I can find the award winners here. Tarek Skubal, Cy Young. Paul Skeens, first pitcher in a very long time to not have a winning record. He was 10-10 to win the Cy Young for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I'm very worried that he's going to end up in a Yankees uniform. Extremely worried. We've had some moves. Josh Naylor stays with the Mariners. A free agency tracker, I haven't seen a whole lot. There's been some trades there. A few trades here and there. Grayson Rodriguez, who was a top prospect, was out pretty much all of last season, was acquired by the Angels, which should be able to help them out. And again, the Angels haven't been relevant in how many years? And that's still with Mike Trout. And they had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani at one point and still were not relevant in any way, shape, or form. So that should tell you everything about the Angels so far. It's just that we've started to heat up the hot stove and we're going to have the winter meetings and everything else like that, which I fortunately in Orlando got a chance to kind of work for a hotel while they were doing that. And it's very cool. It's a very cool kind of event to be a part of. You're seeing people walking around. You see a couple of guys talking from two different teams. You're like, oh, what's going on over here? And stuff like that. So that was a very cool thing for me in my life to see. I brought Brian Cashman water once. My name should be up in the stars. That's how famous I am. I brought Brian Cashman water once. But, this is kind of where we are in the sports world. We're getting close to bowl season. I plan on doing a bowl season kind of prediction through all of that stuff, go through the playoff. They've obviously released a whole bunch of different, who they think is going to be in the playoff, the 12-team playoff, stuff like that. I'm going to get into it when they name it. The people that vote on this stuff, let them have it. But Steve Sarkisian has said that he's not going to leave Texas for any of these other jobs. And then James Franklin, who was fired from Penn State, is going to go to Virginia Tech, which I think is a great hire for Virginia Tech. They have not been, again, relevant in a while since... they've been up there every so often and stuff like that. But the one thing is Bill O'Brien has had a tough time at Boston College. They played a really good game against Georgia Tech, a ranked team this past week, lost on a last-second field goal. I think he's still trying to build stuff. He didn't have a ton of recruits coming in, so Boston College hopefully will be better next year, hopefully with Bill O'Brien. That's kind of where we're at for now. I'm going to talk a little bit about the card industry, the sports card collectible industry. I've been to 3 card shows, sold a bunch of different ones, have acquired a bunch of them. I collect them as a kid, and we've kind of put card side collectibles as part of this Loft Side Creative Media umbrella, if you will. And from where we are, and from where I started, I had talked to a lot of people in the card community, and some of them weren't very friendly. There are so many different variations of each card now that it's weird. And I did 2 card shows where I thought I did really well. This past one, I think, we could have gone better. But the people that are, and the kids that I see that are doing it and everything else, it's really cool that it's come around full circle. And does that mean it's going to go back to being full circle and be worthless at some point? Maybe. I don't have the brain capacity to predict that. But to see the cool things that they can produce now and the things that people are looking for, and this is strictly sports related, all the other stuff as far as like Pokemon and stuff like that, I don't have the brain capacity for all that as well. But to see the thing that I enjoy the most, and I see people do this on social media and stuff like that, is to have like a kid come up and really like something, and you either give them something like there was a little girl there with her dad this past show, and her dad was wearing an Eagles stuff, and she became an Eagles fan, I'm assuming through him, and she couldn't have been 6 or 7, and she came over and she asked about a certain card, and it was, I had a price for like $3 or whatever it was, and they said, it was $3, and whatever. She's like, I'll have to think about it. And she goes back to her dad and sits down with her dad, and she's helping out her dad, who has the table there. And I had, my wife with me, and I had her bring an Eagles card that I was willing to part with, and we gave it to her. And her father was like, I'll still buy the $3 card, but we gave her a card, and see how happy she was. And then my first show, I think I had a kid that he only had like $9 left, and I had a card priced at $15 or whatever it was. And I ended up giving it to him. I think a lot of it is, I started doing this to help make this venture of mine, help fund it. I've poured a lot into it, and I've had a rough couple of weeks because, I've been working little odd jobs and stuff like that, and I wanted this to be a huge success, and I knew it was going to take time. And it started off fairly well, where I got nearly like 500 followers on YouTube and stuff like that fairly quickly, which was nice. But I'm trying to do everything myself, and I try to do a lot with my wife and stuff like that, helping me out, and it's been tough. And I don't necessarily, I'm not going to, this isn't going to go by the wayside. This is going to be something that is probably going to be back to a hobby as it kind of grows, and not necessarily a business. And it's probably something I've had to make peace with over the last, couple of weeks. And it sucks, because I've always enjoyed sports talk radio. I've always enjoyed having opinions and defending my teams and everything else like that. But as of right now, it's just not sustainable for me. And I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to have to do it around, other jobs and stuff like that. I went into this, I didn't think by the end of this year, I gave myself a year, and that'll be in March. Give myself a year to really do this, but I'm going to have to probably cut back on the website and everything else like that, just because it's not catching on to different things. And that's okay. I know that's okay. I just thought I would build it into something eventually, and it seems like the furthest point away right now. So, from here, it's going to be, I'm still going to do an episode a week for the time being. Football season makes it a little bit easier because, I can go over the different games and stuff like that. It's weekly and stuff like that. Whereas, even baseball and basketball, it's, looking at different stories and whatnot. But, the card collecting and stuff like that is going to probably go by the wayside for me. And, I've, the Massachusetts Pirates were a big thing for me to get right off the bat. And now they're moving to Orlando, and I doubt they want to talk with anybody that's interviewing up here in Massachusetts. Congratulations to them, by the way. I think it's a move that they probably needed to make. Arena football, who knows where it can go? It's a good substitute in different times, but I don't necessarily think it'll ever be at the forefront. It's very, very different, which is very cool. But a lot of these things that have kind of happened over the last, I don't know, couple of weeks that have made me realize that a lot of hard work has gone into this and it's not necessarily where I want it to be. And that's nobody's fault apart from my own. I didn't necessarily put all my eggs in one basket, but I've been searching for that other source of income to plug into this and stuff like that, and it just never really came around. Not yet, anyway. I haven't been really given it a shot, but this will probably be kind of there until it can either start growing again. I need to see some sort of stuff like that. And to Marina and to all the people that have come on, the Berards, Dan and Ian, stuff like that, I'm still more than willing to do that and try to get stuff out there. There's got to be some growth. So you'll notice that there's, again, gaming. A lot of the live stuff is gaming from myself and stuff like that. Don't worry, you won't see a camera on there to start off with. But it's fun for me to do that because it gives some sort of content out there. And again, Loftside Creative Media was meant for all the niche things. And when I can afford to do all of that stuff, I want all these shows on here that people can go find. Hey, let's go to Loftside Creative Media and find stuff on books or movies or gaming or sports, whatever the case may be. But until we get there, there won't necessarily be, all the bells and whistles going up with the website and stuff like that. It may just be, hey, we're going to get this out there and plug it out there and whatnot and figure it out. So I'm still going to work on it and everything else, but I do have to take a backseat to what life needs, which is, income. So it's tough. It's been tough. The people that have been following and stuff like that and leaving comments and stuff, I appreciate that. Doesn't mean we're going to go away. I'll figure it out eventually and we'll go from there. And again, maybe it's something that I'm doing once a week on my own time. And, as it kind of grows, we'll figure out something. But again, I'm appreciative of everybody that has reached out and said different things. But, the priority needs to be my family and making a living for them. And this isn't quite there yet. So with that, we're going to sign off today. Sorry to end on a sour note a little bit, but just thought everybody who does listen deserves to know. But I thank you very much. Again, it's loftsidebanter.com at loftsidebanter.com. You'll see a new logo that comes up. I had this podcast audited, and they made some suggestions to help get more listeners and stuff like that. And one of them is, Loftside Banter Sports Podcast. It'll say on the. It's not a huge change, but it's something that will direct people that this is a sports podcast. And then other stuff like that. You'll see a few different things. But Loftside Banter, loftsidebanter.com and loftsidebanter@gmail.com. You know how to get in touch with me. I'd love to hear from people. And again, thank you all very much for having a listen.